Hello, friends. Welcome back to Midnight Horror Picture Show. I'm so glad you're here. Despite today's guest challenging me to introduce them in a single breath, Sabrina Mendoza is far too busy and too interesting to rush through her intro. Born and raised in Queens, Sabrina carved her own way into the filmmaking world and is now working at TROMA. Last September, she wrapped production as assistant director on Lloyd Kaufman's latest film, which she is also serving as lead editor on. Sabrina also stepped into the role of festival director for TROMA's flagship festival, TromaDance. This conversation was just incredibly fun to record, but a quick note before we get started, this episode is rated R for some language and topics that are probably not great for younger ears. I'm very excited to share with you my conversation with Sabrina Mendoza. Sabrina Mendoza, welcome to the Midnight Horror Picture Show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. What a great intro you just did. I could not believe that you did that in one breath. That was insane. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that, because now I'm going to read that real fast when I record it afterwards.
No, this is all happening at the same time, please.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I didn't change clothes or anything. So, Sabrina, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in the horror genre.
Great. So, born and raised in Queens, in Astoria, hell yeah, Queens girl all my life. What really got me into film in general, because I was always a film kid. I never was like a horror person. I was always like, you could kind of classify Tarantino, but like growing up as an early 2000s kid, I mean, like you're like watching just like, oh my God, Inglourious Basterds is playing this week and I have to go. So like that kind of stuff was like big for me. But what really got me into horror is, and I think what really is the case for most people that get into horror in general, is that first poster that you see or that first like DVD that you see and you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, I want to see what this is. And for me, it was Saw 2, which is such a random pick. But I remember like both my parents are both immigrants. I'm first generation Mexican Ecuadorian. They have a lot of like American movies. They love, that and like Robert Rodriguez. Like my dad was like the biggest Robert Rodriguez fan. So when Spy Kids was a thing, he was all like, Spy Kids is cool. But when you're older, you're going to see From Dusk Till Dawn. And I'm like, yay, yes. And that is still one of my favorite movies of all time. So kind of like when my dad was kind of like living with me because they divorced, he left behind all of these DVDs. And one of them, I would just pull them out and not knowing what was going on. I would just pull them out and I would just like look at each case and be like, what the fuck is, like, what is Carlito's Way? Like, what is all this stuff? And I'm like 8 or something. And you're just pulling out bullshit just to see. And then eventually, I started renting DVDs on Netflix when that was a thing. I was just a little too young for Blockbuster. Unfortunately, I'm going to date myself here, but yeah, it was Netflix that really got me into it. But it was also just my dad's collection of movies. And he wasn't like the biggest horror fan, but he did have Saw 1 and 2. And then I remember I came home from like middle school. I was like, it was like bright as day out. And then it was like me and like all the kids on my block. And I was like, all right, we're going to watch this movie because I'm so curious as to what it was. The ending of that movie scared me so hard that I was like, I'm never watching a horror movie ever again. I was like, it's not happening. I was like, I cannot. It's so scary. But yeah, that's basically the start of it all through horror. That and then my mom, like Seed of Chucky was coming out when I was a kid. I was like probably 6, 7, whenever that came out. And my mom, I saw like the standout in the Regal Cinemas where I grew up by. There was like a stand-in of like Chucky. And I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And she just nonchalantly, I've said this to her multiple times. And she is all like, I never did this to you. You're a liar, as classic moms would do. She turned to me and was all like, yeah, that's a killer doll that exists in real life. And I was like, what? What do you mean? And she was all like, yeah, it's real. And I was like, oh my God. I remember we were getting dinner after the movie and I was still thinking about it. I was like, there's a fucking killer doll on the loose and everyone's okay with this and we're just making movies about it? That's fucked up. So I was always scared of Chucky. So like going to Spencer's was like a nightmare for me growing up. That was like, there's too many Chucky dolls. It's too fucking much. So I was scared. I was always scared of like horror movies. I hate jump scares. But then, the internet just shows you like a decapitation video and you're like 10 and you're like, oh, maybe I can get into this.
yeah, I can get into this. I've been desensitized to a point at such a young age that like I can enjoy this now. No, that's so funny. So if I'm remembering correctly, the poster for Saw 2 was like the two severed fingers, right?
Yep.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, it was just this. Because I was always like, the nails are gross. Because it was like indented and it was all like grody. I'm like, why is this? And it was also see-through too. Like the actual disc, like the disc was like see-through. So you could see it, like you could see the fucking DVD in it. I have it. I will show you, but whatever. Yeah, I have all of the Saws because that's, I mean, come on. What are we doing?
What are we doing?
What are so good? They're so stupid. It's the best soap opera.
Have you been keeping up on all of the drama around production of 11?
I know. I'm so, dude, don't waste this 80-year-old man's time. He wants to do it. Let him do it.
Okay. So I was just retelling this to another friend who hadn't seen it. Saw 10 or Saw X, whatever, right? Has one of the, and this is a minor spoiler, so if you haven't seen Saw X, skip ahead 20 seconds. Okay, Saw X, John Kramer is, gets out of the hospital. He's in his hotel room. They're like, you're cancer free. And they do that montage of him with a new lease on life. And he's like going through and like walking through this park in the gardens. And he sits down at this little like bistro style table to like write. And then they do the flip 180 on the camera to the OTS. And it's him just drawing more traps. I was like, this is the funniest bit that they've ever done in a Saw movie. Because Saw movies aren't generally known for their bits. It's like, but the fact that whoever wrote that and was like, no, we have to be self-aware. This is literally the 10th, the 11th, if you count Jigsaw, right?
It's like Jigsaw, Spiral, and Jigsaw and Spiral. Those are the other like cast off ones. That's like
that was it.
But those are great. I mean, like that is hilarious. That it's like it's the most brutal one of like 4, where it's the rack. And he's like, I'm just having a new lease. Oh, fuck this guy though. This is
exactly.
so cool. Oh no, it's so free. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Just I'm so happy. I have a renewed lease on life, and God, I'm gonna kill so many people.
It is still the funniest bit. I'm like, can you imagine as a Mexican watching this movie, I was like, this is fucking awesome. I was like, this is so sick. But then it's also hilarious to think that like in the span of like 24 hours, like John Kramer got all these fucking Mexicans to build this warehouse of traps. It's not him and Amanda. It could have been him and Amanda, but I do love the Senior Juan bit. Juan Kramer would have been great. Nobody said it. Upsetting. But it has the best post-credit scene with fucking Hoffman. Have you seen this? Do you know what I'm talking about? I'll remind you and the audience.
Okay, please do.
Please go on YouTube right now and watch this. It's Detective Hoffman, who is the other, spoiler, the apprentice of like all the other ones, whatever. He's our Greek king. And it's him, and it's the guy that like fools John Kramer to like giving them the number of the place that fucks with him, basically. Like he's like, oh yeah, try this place out. They go to him. It's the original Saw bathroom, and they hang this guy up, and there's like a pincer thing on this guy that's like slowly coming on him, and I swear my life, this is exactly the words. It's Detective Hoffman, and he's all like messing with John Kramer. That's epic bad luck. And I'm like, what year is it? What year is this? I know that you're trying to be like a prequel, but like epic bad luck, that is amazing. That is an amazing line. Good. Like, is back.
Because that's supposed to take place between 1 and 2, right?
2 and 3. No, yeah, it's 1 and 2. No, you're right. Okay. Oh, it is 1 and 2. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, if canonically that's like, it's got to be what? Like 2000 and...
It's like 2006?
Is it?
That would be like 2005 to... No, it's got to be 2006. Because Saw came out in 2004. So
I just feel like that's... They missed the mark by going like too early with what we now refer to as like millennial or internet slang from that term, like epic bad luck, dude.
So I can imagine these serial killers like fucking going on Icon has cheeseburger and it's like a cat meme, all that block compact. It's like, oh, this is the next guy that's going to be in a trap and it's a fucking cat picture. Amazing. I would put that on the next Saw movie if it comes out. Put that in there.
Oh my gosh, that's it. Early aughts millennial just brain rot. So
Yes.
it's like, oh, this trap is amazeballs. If you don't eat this piece of bacon and, you know.
The trap says waffles randomly. It's XD Adele. It's XD, man. You don't understand.
You don't understand.
Opter. Oh my god.
Oh, that's too funny. Well, we just wrote the next movie. There you go,
Right.
producers.
Prince it.
Lionsgate, you know, just give us our royalties. All right. So what is because I know you wear many hats, but what is your official title at Troma right now?
I think I had to say this to the accountant, actually. So this is now on my official government title. Because she was like, what do you do? And I was like, I guess just editor. Because I edit all the videos for all the social medias. Some of them, not all of them. The other one is Matthew D'Angelo, who is our social media manager. He makes those big, elaborate, really compact ones that are like just really good, way better than mine. But we both make content for socials or like we're promoting screenings. I'm also programmer at Troma. I'm a film programmer as well, not only for TromaDance, but also for our series, Hands Across Tromerica, which is still going and it'll probably be going until June. So if you live in Ohio, there's a shit ton of screenings coming your way. And also, whenever this comes out, it's probably just going to be all Ohio. Because everything's happening in Ohio now.
That's so
It is-
weird. Why?
So weird. I have no idea. We had a big screening at the Esquire. We had a big screening at like Inglewood. It's like, why the fuck is everything happening in Ohio? I don't know.
Yeah, interesting.
So we have a shit ton of screenings happening in Ohio for Hands Across Tromerica, which is just highlighting and showing the newest films, the newest 6 films that are coming out of Troma right now. We have #Shakespeare Shitstorm, Curse of the Weredeer, which is my favorite, Sweetmeats, Rise of the Super Tromettes, Kill Dolly Kill, and Bring on the Damned, Volume 1. And that's it. And then we have all the ones that are happening all throughout. So that's just showcasing just all the talent that we have at Troma. So I'm organizing that. So I'm mainly an editor, but I also program a lot of the events and stuff.
That's awesome. A lot of hats.
But it's insane. Like literally, like is every day there's something new. I have to put on a different hat, or I just got to point it to like a different direction, and then just be like, all right, now I'm this, because it's too much. There's too much shit.
Whatever you need to be for the day. So I got to meet some of the creative team who was in town in New York for the 2023 TromaDance event, was that the premiere of Curse of the Weredeer?
That was a focus group. They weren't even done with it. That cut is like the last time you could ever see that cut because they changed it completely after that. But it was a huge success. I mean, the movie is great, but like now it's just a little bit tighter. But yeah, you were saying about meeting them?
Oh yeah, no. Great group of people who made it out for it. I know was one of the lead VFX guys was there.
Yes. One of the lead VFX guys, the director, Ben Johnson, who is also the producer of Power of Positive Murder, the movie that I'm editing right now.
We were at Beauty Bar in Greenwich, right?
Yeah, like on 14th, like basically, yeah, Lower East Side. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. For those of you unfamiliar, it's a bar that has like a theater area, like a cabaret theater area in the back of it. So we had the cabaret theater set up to show films, but it was standing room only most of the event. While I was there, at least, people couldn't get into the theater, and your team ended up simulcasting into like the TVs by the bar just so everyone could see the films.
I was going to say, that wasn't, I mean, maybe that is the term, because it wasn't at the same time. We had walkie-talkies, and we both had to play, like the people on each side of the freaking bar, they were on a walkie, and they were like, all right, I'm putting in the disc now. And then they would press it. So it was like, sometimes it was a little bit off, but other times it wasn't.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so we had to DIY it like that. Like we had discs, like it was ridiculous. It was a ridiculous time. But these guys drove up all the way from Tennessee. They can't even say a name in New York. They don't even know anything about it. And then to have that opportunity to not only screen it in front of Lloyd, have a Q&A in front of it, have Lloyd involved with it, then you also have all of these New York people being there for this event and everything. Of course you're going to get wasted. Like, it's done. It's like set in stone at that point.
Done.
Yeah.
Right. No, absolutely. I remember my team had our film parties over in TromaDance that year. And so we got to be there and like watch it and hear people's reactions. And like, there was one guy and like, he could have been anybody. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter like who he was. Like, he could have just been someone who walked in off the street and was like, whatever. But I heard him say behind me after the film was done, wow, that was great. Neil Willoughby, that's a name to watch. And I was like, sir, you might not have any qualifications, but you're not directly related to me, and that feels really good to hear, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, exactly. It's not crazy that happened. I didn't know. That's awesome.
Especially with films, I feel like it's such a, like, telling a story is great. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, like, telling that story to an audience and seeing how the audience, like, relates to it, I feel is, like, half of why you make it, you know?
Yes.
Like, it's not just to talk to myself. It's, you know, share it, to share the stories that we want to tell.
That's what it's all about. It's all filmmaking. It's just telling and making sure that it is just concise, it makes sense. And even if it doesn't make any sense, just have good audio. That's it. That's all you need to do. Just have a good sound and you can make any movie happen forever. That's it.
That is the best advice I think anyone has given on the podcast yet. Seriously, basics for anyone just starting out in film. You don't need 8K footage. You don't need, you know, $10,000 lenses to shoot on. You need good audio.
Yes. The guy, the sound engineer or the sound operator or the sound guy should always be the most paid on set. I'll die on that hill. Because are you kidding me? You like, unless you're making a silent film like this, you need good audio because that's really going to make or break someone, especially now. Because, I mean, there's a lot of overstimulation in movies already, or maybe there's, you know, this mumblecore kind of like filmmaking that's happening now. But all of those have like great sound design, or they have great, just like you could be very clear of what the story is no matter what. And then if you want to add like an ambiance or if you want to add anything after that, that all is just in sound. I mean, I'm dealing with it right now with editing this movie. Like, I'm not a sound guy, but some of these times I'm like, maybe the guy that was in charge of this should have, you know, maybe lowered the output, because there's so many times where people are screaming in this movie and it peaks. And then it peaks my ears, and then I'm like, fuck. And then even if I lower it or something, you're like, you could still see the peaking. You could still see it, that it's peaked. And now
even if you hard limit it lower, it's still, you know, yeah. No, that's not fun.
The sound people, I mean, props to any sound person ever.
100%.
Yes.
100%. All right, so tell us, at least as much as you can, you shot... You're edited The Power of Positive Murder, which is Lloyd Kaufman directing, where you not only serve as editor on this film, you were also second AD and head of behind the scenes photography.
Yep, I was literally all of them because a lot of people were dropping from the set and I picked it up. I was like, I have to. I was brought on to do only behind the scenes. That was my only job. Lloyd, because I work in the office, so like Lloyd was like, you could edit it, but there was no like actual for sure like signed contracts, no nothing that I was going to be the editor until like the end of the shoot. They were like, well, you're going home with this and this is now your baby. And I was like, oh fuck, well, shit. Because I was also editing it as we were shooting it. So I'll get to that. But yeah, I was mainly brought on for behind the scenes. We stayed in the Burnbrae Manor for a month and a half.
Where is that?
This Burnbrae Manor is upstate in New York by the Port Jervis area, in that kind of neck of the woods, kind of closer to Jersey, a little like just like the border, kind of like that. The border of Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, not of Jersey, but of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Which is weird, which was great because a lot of people got cheap cigarettes, which was awesome, which was
there you go.
But besides that, it was like we were in the middle of fucking nowhere. If you wanted anything, it would be an hour and a half drive to do anything. So Power Positive Murder is Lloyd Kaufman's next directed film, written by Martin Murray, which is, and it's a very loose adaptation of Crime and Punishment, Fyodor Dostoevsky. If you are Russian, I fucked it up, but if not, then every English teacher in like Middle America hates me fucking that up. Crime and Punishment, good book, but the movie is kind of loosely adapted from that, and it's about a disheveled post-grad student that is spending a summer in this manor, and he plots to kill his landlord. So, and it's a noir. So this movie is all shot in black and white. Lloyd really wanted to go back to the TCM movies that he loves, like the MGM movies that he loves. I mean, we talk about a lot of influences that he has, mainly Laurel and Hardy right now, and like a lot of like Jerry Lewis, even though Jerry Lewis is not really black and white, but he watches noirs like candy every day. He watches a noir. So for example, like I was saying earlier, like he watched Girl Can't Help It, which is a James Mansfield movie. And the beginning of that movie is a guy introing who is also an actor in the movie. And he's all like, oh, well, this is the movie. And then he saw that and he was like, I gotta do that. So every noir that he sees, he's like, we're doing it. But the thing was that I think the people that shot this movie didn't get the fucking memo, because some of it is, it's really pretty though. I will say it's really pretty. But again, this is a noir. It is a very serious film for Lloyd. There's like almost no gore in this. There's no like blood. There's one bloody scene, but there's no over the top, like sad, like over the like everything you think of a trauma movie. This is like the opposite. This is like a Lloyd Kaufman film. Like this is like on some shit that is not like the regular like Toxic Avenger or like Sergeant Kabuki Man or like any of that kind of stuff. This is by far like Lloyd playing it straight. And that's why I love it. And he tasked me, he asked me, we sat on his desk, not on it, but we were sitting at his desk and he held my hand and he was all like, will you have this baby with me? And I said, yes, I will make sure that this is going to be the best movie that we have to date. And Debbie Rochon, who is a huge star, she does like a million things. She writes for Fangoria. She's a scream queen. She plays the landlord in this. And she says that by far this is her favorite trauma film. And she's been working for them for like since Terra Firma. She was in Terra Firma. She was in Citizen Toxie. She's been there forever. And she's like, this is my favorite trauma movie for sure.
That's so exciting. No, that's so exciting. And it's so interesting to hear that. I'm going to have you explain for those who are, I don't know who would be, but for those listening who aren't super familiar with Lloyd or trauma, it's a very much Lloyd Kaufman is one of the kings of DIY filmmaking. He's written numerous books on it at this point, and he built Troma from the ground up as kind of a middle finger to the studios. He's like, hey, I want to make stuff, and I don't want you to tell me what I can or can't make. I'm just going to make stuff. And there's such a like splatter punk aesthetic to like a lot of Troma's work. It's gritty, and it's often like clearly produced on like lower budgets. But that's part of like the heart of it. What Lloyd did with Troma is what I'm trying to emulate with this podcast. There's so much creativity that is out there, and working with little to no budgets, I feel only increases people's need to be creative. And there's so many like cool stories and great ideas that aren't going to see theaters. So I wanted to, with this, make a place to highlight those people. And Troyd has been producing their movies since the early 80s, 70s, maybe?
70s, yeah, 70s.
Yeah.
Because he started off of Yale. He made his first movie, The Battle of Love Returns, while he was in Yale. And then he did a lot of sex comedies in the 70s, and then was like, we're going to do Toxic Avenger. 1984, which is a great year for movies. It's crazy how he started. Him and Michael Hers, all of it goes to him as well, because the both of them found each other in Yale, and then they were like, let's start a freaking movie company. And it's like, ever since then, like they've just stuck, and they still fight, like, not fight, but they still talk like they're like the odd couple in the office because they barely see each other. And then when they do, they're like, have you heard this thing? I can't believe it. And they talk about the news and they talk about the world, and it's very fun. But yeah, most of it is definitely also Michael and just the legacy that Lloyd has. I mean, Troma, if you're not familiar, if you haven't gotten the cool memo yet, is 50 years of independent cinema disrupting media, saying fuck you to big media evil conglomerates. There you go. And just again, DIY, just make your own damn movie. Like, fuck it, you have an idea, just go ahead and do it. Lloyd supports all of this. Some Troma alums that you might know are Samuel L. Jackson, Marissa Tomei, Robert De Niro, technically Robert De Niro, because they distributed De Palma's film, Brian De Palma. They distributed The Wedding Party, which is the first Robert De Niro movie.
I did not know that.
So they did that as well. And also, another crazy fact about Troma is the first distributor for the Gilby movies. Like, really? My Neighbor Totoro was like a Troma release, actually. So there is and I have it in the basement. It's in the basement. It's in the archives. There's 35 millimeter reels of My Neighbor Totoro with the classic Troma landscape, like, in the beginning, which is wild.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Who else? Just, I don't know, some lame guys that started this cartoon that didn't really go anywhere. And they made like Broadway plays or something. I think they're like Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
You know, I don't think their careers ever really took off. That's a deep cut.
That or like that James Gunn guy. Like, I don't know whatever happened to him.
Whatever happened to him? Yeah, no, it's not, you know, the whole DC cinematic universe now.
Yeah, which is great. Well, and then Lloyd's in Superman. Like, he's in the trailer if you haven't seen him. He's in every James Gunn movie. He's like James Gunn and him are like Raimi and like Bruce Campbell. Like, everything that Sam Raimi does, he's going to put him, obviously Bruce Campbell, but same with like James Gunn. Like, I watched Slither the other day for like the 100th time, and I was all like, wait a minute. And then it's like Lloyd in the background. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Like, Lloyd is he's in Guardians. He's in the new Superman. He's in Slither. He's in everything. I just have not seen him in Scooby-Doo yet. So I have to see if he's in that.
I have to go back and look for Lloyd now. I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah. And also, Lloyd was the second unit director for Rocky. And he's also in Rocky.
Really?
Yeah. So Lloyd has been in a lot of shit. That's my favorite thing about Lloyd, is like watching a movie and you're like, wait, what the fuck? Why is Lloyd here? Like watching like Gamer. Have you ever seen Gamer?
Yes.
Gerard Butler? That movie rocks. But also, he helped out the two directors. What is his name? Nevedine and whatever. The guys that did Crank, because Lloyd helped them make Crank, which was another thing. Like, he knows those guys.
Crank, like the Jason Statham?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
He knows those guys. So Lloyd has given a lot of people their start because him and like Roger Corman were like big like producers in the early, I mean, not early, but like, you know, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, they were like the horror guys. He got a lot of this stuff from Roger, and if not, like Oliver Stone, like him and Oliver Stone are boys, which is weird. But yeah, Lloyd is basically your favorite director's favorite director. That's how I say it. Because everything that we know and learn and love is from Lloyd, and just his trial and error of just being a DIY guy, for sure.
I love that. I love that so much. So speaking of Lloyd giving people their start, I mean, you're already working with Lloyd pretty closely. And in an interview with Vinegar Syndrome, he called you, Sabrina Mendoza, the next big thing. I
hope so.
I hope so. It's wild because you are already like not only wearing three hats on his next movie, you also are the director of the TromaDance Film Festival, which you touched on a little bit. Tell us about the 2025 event. What's the plan?
Plan is that we're still looking through, and I think the new number is 3,700 submissions, which is fucking insane, because last year it was only 600, and I was like, oh, I could do this by myself. That's totally fine. But now we have 3,700 submissions that I am going through still, and I'm very happy about it. I'm so excited. I mean, this is a free event. We just do this for the filmmakers. We don't make a single dime off of this, honestly, except for selling merch. But we don't. I never got paid for it. I do it all for free. The venue, like, gracefully, sometimes they give it for us for free. But, like, this is all about showing independent cinema all around the world, all across the globe, and just bringing people together for one event that is not just, like, you have to go through, like, a paywall. Because most of filmmaking, or, like, any mixer, any, like, bullshit thing, it's all like, yeah, it's like $10 or $20. And it's all like, no, dude, hell no. I'm sorry. For me to bumble and, like, walk around like, oh, you do fucking whatever. No, these are people that are going to party with you. These are people that are going to have long-lasting relationships with, because out of the people that come out of TromaDance, all of them just like mingle together, and then they start making their own stuff after that. So this is just a better way of connecting filmmakers and making sure that their art is shown all for free, because that's what it's all about. It's all about the independent cinema stuff. And this is kind of like mocking Sundance, because it all started actually with Matt and Trey. They started it back in like 2000 based in Utah because of
Really?
Sundance. Yeah. Because they were like protesting Sundance for being like, I got to pay for all this stuff. So they put on a free film festival, and now it's in New York. It was in Utah for a little bit and then came to New Jersey. Now it's in New York. And there is one in Detroit. I don't know how or when this happened, but there was one.
There was.
That one, yeah.
I think it stopped like 5 or 6 years ago. Because I remember when the first films I did, that's like, I was like, oh, there's a TromaDance in Detroit. Well, my stuff's not good enough for TromaDance yet. It was like one of my first shorts. And I was like, no, I don't even want to like put this in front of anybody associated with Troma yet. So, but yeah. And then when I finally was like, oh no, I'm ready to start like submitting stuff to TromaDance, was when it had already moved back to New York and Detroit was done. So I was like, oh, all right. And then, I've been very, lucky to have you guys accept our films in 2023 and 2024. So we made the trip out there with some people from our team, which is always a great time. So last year's, what was the bar it was at last year?
Oh, it was at Lucky 13 Saloon in Brooklyn.
Very cool spot in Brooklyn, very like heavy metal bar, but they have a show venue like for concerts in the back, and that's where the festival itself was. And then we had you had our mutual friends and Fishfly, the band.
Yes, Fishfly, which I can't say their actual names because they do a bit, but yes, Fishfly was there. They exterminated all of us. It was a really good time. It was really good. I really want to bring them back this year, obviously, because I'll throw some nepotism there. But yeah, I was like, come on, what the hell? There's no other chance to do it. And also, they're great. And Lloyd really liked them, too. Like, I showed him the music. I remember I was on the phone with Sam, and I was like, Lloyd, I just showed Lloyd your music. Because he called me randomly, and he's all like, oh, my God, how did it go? And then I put it on speaker, and Lloyd was all like, I think this captures it. And I was like, I don't know what that means for sure. Great. And then Sam was all like, oh, my God, Lloyd Kaufman, I can't believe it. But yeah, Lloyd liked them a lot, and they had a great energy, and a lot of people from New York liked them a lot. So I was like, maybe we'll bring them back if we find a good place for it. But last year was fun. Lloyd was drunk. Were you there for that?
I was.
Oh, my God. For the viewers at home, for the kids at home. Okay, first of all, his wife is the commissioner of all of fucking New York film. She is in the governor. She is like in like some real shit. Like she is like top 10, like really top production person in New York City. And she's married to Lloyd Kaufman. So Lloyd brings Pat, who is this basically like 70 something year old woman, so frail, and they go into this heavy metal bar. Lloyd is chugging double shots of whiskey neat. He's looking at all the strippers with his wife, which is awesome. Hell yeah. He's looking at all the strippers, whatever. He's outside. This is my fault. This is my fault entirely. Somebody passed me a joint. Lloyd was like, can I get a hit? I was like, all right. I passed Lloyd the joint. He got too high because he usually gets too high at these events. And then he basically Irish goodbye to everyone and left his Amex card behind the bar. And then he calls me because, first of all, we were supposed to have a Q&A that night that he completely left. I was like, we got Sweet Beats coming up. Oh, yeah, whatever. I'm on the phone. I'm on stage. He's calling me and he's like, Sabrina, I left my Amex at the bar. Please close me out. I'm so drunk right now. There's video of this. And it's like, he's like, I'm so drunk right now. Thank you so much for everyone that came out. And everyone's like, yay, love you, Lloyd. But he was like, please bring it to the office. I was like, all right, I got you. No worries. But he is a party animal. But last year was pretty fun because it was also the pseudo wrap of Power Positive Murder. So everyone came that Saturday from set. Like we wrapped that Friday and then everyone came that Saturday.
Yeah. Because
insane.
I remember that you talking about that. I also remember you having that phone call with Lloyd that you put like the microphone up to your phone. Because that was around the time you guys did the raffle drawing.
Yes.
And I walked away with like the box of rat poison prop from Power of Positive Murder.
Oh, I totally forgot.
I did.
Oh my God.
So I got that and I got a couple Troma DVDs. I think I won, like I got pulled from the raffle. Like I won twice and I was like, oh, this is weird. So I had Dan Raymond with me, who is my art director on most of my films. And so I made her go up. And I was like, take the second one. And I think she got the DVDs. So, but yeah, no, I got that box of rat poison and it's like instant mashed potatoes underneath.
Yep. That's DIY. There you go. That's a part of film history, honestly. That is true.
That's it.
You never know. You never know if you need that box and you never know if you could use that prop because now you got a free prop that you can use.
Truth. Okay. So you're doing all this great stuff with Troma. Let's talk about some of your work that got you here, right? So you grew up in Astoria. Quick question. I don't know how long it's been around, but when you were younger, did you ever like go to the Museum of the Moving Image? And
yes, when I was literally, I remember when they erected it. I remember when they, you know why? Because it was also an arcade. At the time, it literally was just an arcade. So it was the only place by me that wasn't also the movie theater that had DDR. And it had the Donkey Kong bongo game, like the little rhythm game that they had.
Yeah.
Great fucking game. But yeah, I remember when it got built. I remember it was just like a tiny sliver of a building. And they only had like half of what they have now. And then when I was younger, they were doing like a film school kind of class thing for the summer for like a retreat because like it's one of those things where like I always knew I was going to be a filmmaker. It just was like, when is it going to happen? When I was all like, I want to make movies, and my parents were like, all right, here's like a fucking thing for the Museum of Moving Image. And I remember just making little shorts there and stuff, and like I was always a part of like summer programs a lot growing up. But Moving Image, 100% great. I just got drunk with the guy that creates all the movies there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Jesse. Love you, Jesse. Jesse's great. He does the disrupting media programming at the Moving Image. He's great. I love him, and I love the Moving Image. I've been going there forever. That is my favorite thing. My favorite thing in the Moving Image. If you ever go to Astoria, first of all, a little bit of history. The building across the street is my high school, the Frank Sinatra place. That was my high school. And then down the block is the theater that I grew up in, the Regal Theater. So it's been through and through Astoria gal. But there is a sculpture in the stop motion part of the exhibit. Did you go? Have you been to the Moving Image? Do you remember this?
More than once, yes.
There is a sculpture in like a dark room that you can kind of go in. And when they don't have it on, there's just like a light. And then it spins around and it's like a balloon. It's like an airplane, a paper airplane that crashes into a plate that becomes an atom bomb, that becomes a tear, that becomes a faucet, whatever. And as a kid, I was like, this is whatever. And then the fucking strobe light came on because obviously when you cut things up, it fucking animates it. And I remember just seeing it in front of me for the first time. Like, you're like, oh my, what the fuck? What is going on here? And that shit is still amazing. Every time I go, I'm like, we gotta go and see it. It's my favorite thing.
If you go to the city, take a half day, take a day to go to Astoria. Definitely check out the Museum of the Moving Image. There's so much, especially up on like, is it the third floor where they have all of the movie memorabilia stuff?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have the suit from Mrs. Doubtfire there, and like there's so much cool stuff, a lot of film history. But yeah, so no, that's great, and that's so cool to hear that they do like summer programs and stuff that were.
Oh yeah, they love the kids. They love the kids. They start now. They do a lot of like animation stuff, which is great. With a lot of kids learning code and how to like actually animate in digital software. And they start at like fucking like the 4th grade. I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. But no, it's amazing. They're the future, man. They're the future. I used to be a film teacher, man. It's true. It's great. I love working with kids. It's fun.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So let's talk about some of your work, like previous to / starting, with Troma. I met you through the horror film Roulette event in Detroit, Royal Oak, if you want to be whatever about it.
Yeah.
So first off, how did you come to like learn about horror film Roulette, and which year was your first year with it?
I think the first year was 2021.
Okay.
Right after the pandemic, because I met Nicholas over the pandemic. My best friend, Nicholas. Love you, Nicholas. You're out there. He's probably not going to listen to this. Or no, I'm going to force him to listen to this. If he doesn't, I'm going to kick his ass. That's right, Nicholas. I'm going to kick your ass. Nicholas is my best friend. I met him over the pandemic. I met him literally October of 2020, right before Halloween. And we've been besties ever since. And I love him. And he's great. And he was like, oh, I do this thing every like Halloween, because he wanted to be an actor at the time. He's like, oh, I act in all these things. And I was like, film, you say? And I was like, I haven't made anything in fucking forever. And I love film competitions because like it kind of like holds your hand. It's all like, all right, make a movie about this. And I'm like, okay, great. Because I'll have a million other ideas. And like, I don't know what is going to be like good. So like having a prompt is great. I love stuff with, and then there's like a wheel. I love a wheel. There's like a wheel. Fuck yeah, dude, it's amazing. So I was like, you spin a wheel, you get a genre, and then you do the genre. And I'm like, okay. And there was a lot that I wasn't really a fan of, because then there's a lot of genres I'm not like 100% on, like sci-fi. I was like, oh my God, if I get sci-fi, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then years later.
You did, and you made a really cool piece called Coast to Coast AM. That was a sci-fi piece, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So explain that to someone who hasn't seen it. Also, I'm going to drop links to all of Sabrina's work that we can in the description, but explain the concept, the production process, because I think it's really interesting.
Yes. Coast to Coast AM was one of the last horror from Roulette submissions that I did. It's about the 1997 recording of radio show called Coast to Coast AM, which is hosted by Arthur Bell, who was a prolific figure in like alien stuff going on or conspiracies. A lot of the time, like he would be talking to like cult leaders or like to like people that were like just fanatics or something like that. So he was always trying to find like the next big thing. But this was all about the recording of a Area 51 employee that like was released, and then he was freaking out, and he calls Art Bell, and then like the power shuts off for him and they had to restart, but it's like the real audio recording. And if you're a Tool fan, it is a song that is like, I think in like the second album that they put out, like in the early 2000s, and it's called Fiop D Oep or something like that. And it is like a harsh noise experimental like track of the call, but not of Art Bell, but just of the Area 51 guy. And I remember at a young age, my dad, who is a Tool fan, put that on, and I was in a car, and it's one of those like well manufactured songs that like it's like a surround sound thing. So I remember being in the car, and I was fucking like, what the fuck is this? Is this real? So that always stuck with me. So when I got sci-fi, I was like, I'm going to do the thing that terrified me as a kid, and I'm going to do the recording of this. And then the deeper and deeper that I delved into the subject, I found out like months later, the guy called back and was saying it was a hoax after they were trying to figure it out. There was still no explanation for it. It's still a mystery to this day, apparently, or whatever. So I just made it. I was like, fuck it. I did it in 3 days. I shot in a brothel. It was very weird because like the guy that rented to me was also an Airbnb, but it was also a massage parlor, but it was also like where he lived. So yeah, it was crazy. It was listen, he gave it to me for $100 a day, and I only worked there 2 days. That's a steal, whatever.
Perfect.
I was like, he was cool, but it was hilarious because this guy, we'll call him Porno Steve because that's what I call him. Porno Steve, what a man. It's the first day of shooting, and the guy that I got to play Art Bell, I met him through Troma because he is actually one of the main leads in hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm.
Oh, okay.
And I reached out to him, and he was all like, "Oh my God, I could do the voice. I could shave my beard. Whatever you want. I'm 100% there." He was 100% on board. And I told him, I was like, "It's gonna be like a dubbing, like I'm doing like a lip sync thing." But he actually learned the voice, which is why at the end of the film, I was like, well, I gotta fucking put your voice in. If you work so hard on it, sure. So the first day we're shooting, Porno Steve is like, "All right, you got everything you need, whatever." And I'm like, "Yep, we're gonna start shooting." And then the desk is here, and then his kitchen is right here. And he's like, basically in frame of where we're shooting. And he's like, "All right, guys, I'm just gonna fry some onions real quick." And I'm like, "We're about to record. What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm just going to do like some onions and liver real quick. I'm just going to make myself dinner." And I'm like, "Can it wait?" So we had to shoot kind of around that for this guy grilling onions. And I was like, what the fuck?
Like, thank God you did, like, you were dubbing it, right? Because you're dubbing it with the actual call, which is unsettling. Like, it's an unsettling audio. But I just imagine, like, you have this professional actor who's like so ready to play this part, and he's speaking his lines like he learned it all. And I would love, like, I'm just imagining what the original audio captured on that camera sounds like with the like sizzle of someone caramelizing onions and him doing it.
Ridiculous. It was so silly. But like, yeah, for all the stuff in that house of like Art Bell, he was grilling onions, and he was all like, he's like, "All right, I'm going to go to the bar." After all of this, he was like, "I'm going to go to the bar, have fun."
Had to get his bass down before he went drinking. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? Honestly, you got to feed yourself before you go drinking. That's 100% true. That's also advice for filmmakers out there. Please eat before you drink.
A second golden piece of advice.
Exactly. Please do.
Audio is number one. Eat before you go out drinking.
It's true. Because then you're gonna feel it in the morning, man. Yeah, that was another challenge. Another challenge during that night was the actor didn't tell me that he was like a non-smoker. Like he quit. Like he was like a big smoker, and he was like, "I cannot be near a cigarette." And I was like, "Dog, the guy is smoking I told you that this was gonna happen." And then it literally was. He's like, "I'm not gonna put it in my lips. I'm not gonna like do anything. But when it's lit, but I'll have it in my hand and I'll have it unlit in my mouth, and that's it." And I was like, all right. So we shot around that, which was great. All the other stuff like that was outside. A friend of mine who was one of the cinematographers for Bring on the Damned, Volume 1, he caught wind that I was doing this project because I wanted him to shoot it. But he was like, "I got to go to a wedding in Buffalo." And I was like, fuck. He's like, "I'll give you my camera." It was literally like a tiny Panasonic camera like this, like one of those like old digital ones. So it had that like kind of like grain of like what was like it in the film. It's kind of very grainy, and it's like the aspect ratio is like that. It's tiny. It's a tiny little camera like this, but it was a fancy Panasonic. So I took that upstate, and I just had like was shooting myself. Like I was just shooting stuff like that with like what I was seeing and stuff like that. And then Red, his name is Red. The other actor, the Area 51 guy. He's in Long Island. So we went out to Long Island one day, and then we're shooting in Long Island, and it's this guy, and we find like an abandoned house. That's the one that he's like knocking in and all that stuff, whatever. And he's like, there's like the scene where he's like trying to like get on the car. We almost hit him. We almost actually hit him. That one that's in there is the one where we almost actually hit him. And I was like, don't do it. And if we are, I'm going to record it. Please let me know. Because
right.
But yeah, and then the big challenge for Coast to Coast, trying to tie it in here, was I got really, really sick the last day of shooting. And also, Steve forgot to tell me that the room that I booked, the bed that was there, had bed bugs in it. And I left all of my equipment there overnight, and I had to Lysol and clean every aspect of every orifice of this stuff because it wasn't all my equipment. And I'm like, motherfucker, I'm on the ground. Like I was so, like I had like 102 fever. I was like, I could not even speak. I was like popping halls like crazy. It was insane. So much that I had one left, and the actor who is not using his voice at all and is like dubbing over it, like he's like mouthing the words or whatever. He's not saying anything. He's like, can I get the last hall? I'm like, I'm dying, dude. I'm like, there's snot coming out of me. My eyes are red from puffiness. I'm sick to the nines. So much that like my boyfriend who was like helping me, he was all like, dude, you gotta call the shot. You have to go home and rest. You're like dying. I'm like, nope. I got the gels. Let's go. Let's do this. We have this for one more day. I'm not spending a dime or nickel. I'm going through it. And I was on my knees on the floor of this dirty ass freaking bed bug written brothel freaking massage parlor, because where we ended up shooting was where there was just a massage bed and that was it. And I was like, well, I wonder what this is. And it's me using like a rug that was in the room as a dolly. Because I was like, we got to pull back and we got to make like this cool thing. So I put it on a rug, And then I just like was on my hands and knees, like just like going like this to it. And everyone else, like there's one guy holding a light. And then it's just James that is just recording there's like two people in the room. That isn't me and the actor. And like, I was like deadly sick.
Porno Steve is cooking more onions, and
it was the onions, man. He knew it. It was like a premonition. But yeah, that was the Coast to Coast is still great. And then we screened it for TromaDance in 2024.
Yes, you did.
Yes, alongside your film too.
Yeah.
Whoever was in charge of that, I don't know why that was together. These guys are great, and I really wanted to showcase you guys specifically because I mean, gotta give credit where credit is due. You're amazing as a filmmaker.
Thank you. That's very nice of you to say. Let's talk Vlog 37 Ecuador, which is another one you made for Horror Film Roulette, with the production of that, because you actually filmed in Ecuador, which I think is it wasn't Ecuador, but I have also guerrilla shot on vacation places just to have the background. And I think for like no budget filmmakers, that's like such a good thing to keep in mind. I'm not saying you have to shoot a scene of a film, but if you can get even B-roll somewhere, like that's such a good...
That's production value, baby.
Yeah, that's it.
It's not where you're at, and that's what makes it good. Yeah, Ecuador, I mean, I was going to Ecuador regardless, but it was just like, I thought that I had more time, and I was like, oh, I know. So I got to think of something quick. And it was also another thing that I wasn't really akin to in terms of like a genre. It was like paranormal. I was like, it's not my, I mean, it's my thing. I like watching it, but I never like did a proper paranormal film, basically. And it was me and again, my best friend. We were going to Ecuador anyway to just visit family, and he wanted to tag along. And I was like, well, I need somebody else to fucking film this with me because I can't do this on my own. And also just a great opportunity to go to Ecuador. So we filmed it. We like conceptualized the idea like early on. I was like, all right, it's going to be this because we both love like analog horror stuff and like streams and like funny like YouTube stuff. And it's great just to be like, okay, it's a vlog because that's what it's going to look like regardless. Like I'm not bringing like a nice cinematic camera. I'm shooting this on my iPhone. And which was also a challenge in itself because there was a lot of people, I was warned, because I mean, Ecuador is great and all, but like a lot of people would come, like just put their hands in a car and just take your phone if you see it out. So a lot of the time was like me literally going like this, but my family in Ecuador is mainly in Quito, which is like the capital. So it's very like city, metropolitan, whatever. But another part of my family that is also Ecuadorian is in the jungle. And like Puyo, like Ambato, Baños, all these things. Whoever's Ecuadorian and knows this, hell yes. But that area is basically like you're neck to neck with the Amazon. Like you're going to deal with snakes. You're going to deal with very large bugs that are annoying. And I remember we were visiting, I forgot what it was. I think it was Mera or it was something with an M. But I remember we were like, we were in a butterfly conservatory, basically. And on the way out of it was a place where you could just grab a tire, like a fucking rubber tire, and then get on the stream, and then you just ride down. So there was just like a kind of like stream kind of place that was there, and there was like a guy like instructing people, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? So I'm telling my mom, because my mom was like, what is happening? And I'm like, don't worry about it. I don't want to, because I don't want her to bother. And then she was going to be like, oh, let me be a helper. I'm like, no, you deal with family. I'm going to deal with this real quick. And what was it? And then my grandmother has dementia. So she doesn't know where the fuck she's at regardless. So she doesn't know what the fuck is going on. And it was her cousin that was with us. And I'm like, all right, me and Andrew are going to go into the woods real quick. If you hear screaming, it's me. I'm acting. Don't worry. And then my mom has to translate this because I'm speaking in English because I suck at Spanish, as you could tell in the movie, because I fuck up the Spanish there and I'll never forgive myself. I remember I was like, oh yeah, this has to be it. I'm a fake Mexican. I'm a fake everything. I'm not Hispanic. I'm terrible. No, but so I'm trying to say it in broken Spanish. I'm like, oh, I'm doing un película. I will be back in a second, basically. And then I go into the woods and I have like that whole fucking thing where I'm like going on my back. But like there's also a family of people trying to get on the water rafting thing that are right by it. And I'm like, talk about embarrassing yourself. Like embarrassing yourself in America, whatever. You're in another country, they will look at you like a whole other fucking human being. It's like, oh, fuck. So we did everything basically DIY, guerrilla filmmaking, all iPhones, except for the web camera at the end, which is this web camera, actually. And we just shot it, and then we fucking sent it. And I was like, you know what? I'm just glad I got something out. It's one of those things where I wasn't really completely proud of it because, again, I fuck up my Spanish, and it was also something that I wasn't really like I really wanted to make something really cool. But I mean, it did come out really cool. I'm just saying that like I'm very much like I have an idea, I'll write a script, I'm gonna do something with it kind of person. So me kind of being in a situation that was like kind of like foreign, literally, and also like figuratively, was really interesting, which is why I really like horror from Roulette, because it puts you in positions where you're not really used to that genre, and then you kind of grow from it as a filmmaker and just as a lover of film, honestly.
100%. Yeah, no, horror film Roulette is great, and it is an international competition. Anyone can sign up for it, but you'll hear us talk about this, or you've heard us talk about this in the past, depending on how I decide to release these episodes. But horror film Roulette is a competition where you have a month to make a horror film based on like a roulette wheel spin that has different subgenres of horror, right? So yeah, with that, it's an excuse to make something. And then you're locked into, whatever subgenre it is, and it might not be what you are comfortable with, or like what you have, something you would have found interesting before. But then if you're curious, it introduces you to so much. If you do a little bit of research into the genre, if and to tell a story in a different genre, I mean, it's a challenge, but creativity thrives in adversity. So, okay, another film I wanted to talk about of yours is
oh baby, yes.
So okay, the film is called Are You Winning, Son? And if you don't have to necessarily be chronically online like myself, but
Yes.
If you are, I feel it helps, because I saw this because this played at TromaDance 2023, correct?
Yes, which was a late edition, actually. I did not submit. It literally was that the person that didn't send a movie in time that week didn't send it in time. And then Garrett was all like, I just saw Are You Winning, Son? Put it in. And I was like, fuck, okay, shit. So that was very last minute and very kind of him. Thank you, Garrett.
Yeah, because you just started directing the festival in 2024. So you were, like we talked about earlier, you were running the door for the event in 2023, but you also had a film. So Are You Winning, Son? It feels, okay, it feels like it's definitely Reddit, like brain rot meets like a 80s after school special where it's like, this is what will happen to your kids if they play D&D. You know, I obviously
It is unsupervised internet access. This is what it'll do to you. Yes.
Exactly. It's absolutely a movie, like a horror movie, because it gets a little supernatural with it. But it's definitely like every parent's worst fear is like, you know.
Yeah, and it was literally just like a meme that I saw. I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna do that. It's great. I love meme horror. I'm a chronically online gal. I grew up on 4chan. Like this was like this was like peak pandemic too. So I was always on Discord. So it was like, yeah, 2020, I'm meeting all my friends on the internet. Everyone's telling me all this other crazy stuff. Why not just use it for your advantage? And then I kind of got that inspiration from just being an online kid and then just watching all these memes or like seeing all these memes, like the evolution of like all these soy jacks and, you know, all this stuff. And like the fact that I even said that out loud is just annoying, but you know, that's just how it is. I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, I just wanted to make a movie that was short, sweet. I did it with my friends, and one day we shot it in 8 hours. I did all the makeup myself. I brought everything. It wasn't even my house. I was all like, hey, my friends have an apartment. And I was like, can I film in your apartment? They were like, yeah, for like a couple hours. And then it was basically the whole night. And then I edited everything that night. And this was also for a film festival. This was for the Kinoplex Film Festival, or like the horror film festival. It was like a Facebook group that came out of like obviously the pandemic, and that's where Nicholas and I met, and they were doing like a little competition thing, and I was like, let me flex some muscle, let me be dumb. And it's for a bunch of internet people anyway, so I knew the audience. I was like, if anyone is gonna get this, it's gonna be all of these chronically online motherfuckers. So
absolutely,
you gotta know your audience. There you go. Third piece of advice, you gotta know your audience, because a lot of the time I think there's a great balance between people that are like, I have a story to tell and I need to tell it to people. But it's also like, does every story need to be told? And like, can you relate it to an audience that is always going to like intake it? Because I could be talking about Are You Winning, Son? But like, if I'm showing this in like freaking like Ocean City, Maryland, and like everyone's retired and there's like a 70-year-old woman, she's going to be like, what is femboy? I'm like, oh, Jesus. Like, there you got to know your audience, because that's what you're selling it to. You're making a product, whether you like it or not, and whoever is buying is the person that's in that seat. So if you don't know your audience, then you're not going to get the response that you need. So I definitely knew the chronically online audience, so I was just like, I'm just going to delve into it. And I'm still doing something like that because I'm working on Cummunculus, which I think, did I tell you about this?
No.
So Cummunculus is a movie that I'm making that is about a anime figure that is stuck in a cum jar that comes to life, and kind of like that movie with Tyra Banks in it, a life size, like Frankenhooker, kind of like a Frankenstein monster-esque thing, but she's like made out of cum. Like Poor Things, but for the chronically online.
For the chronically, that has to be the tagline. And like that's got to be the tag.
Yeah. So that's the next thing I'm working on. So it's like, you got to know your audience. Like if you don't know what that is and it still grosses you out, like you need to let in both. Like you have to have like, okay, this is going to be this. These are the jokes for these guys, but these are the people that have jobs and families that are actually doing stuff. So I guess Are You Winning, Son kind of like had that wheel turning for me, because it's like, okay, if this was successful, if people are looking for this, and you kind of see it now, like there's a lot of movies that are coming out that are very much like, again, like early 2000s aesthetic. You have Y2K, or you have all of these movies that are like, that Blumhouse are doing. It's very fun to have like that nostalgia, but that's what people are looking for. That's the audience that is like, you know, there's like these freaking Gen Alpha kids that are like, I wish I had a Tumblr in 2014. I'm like, no, you fucking don't, dude. That's a war zone that you don't want to go in, man.
Right.
Like, it's like, what are you talking about? It's like, yeah, I wish I was there when Skins from UK was out. Shut up. Like, it's like that kind of aesthetic is coming, and it's gonna be the next like nostalgia bait of like how people are like, oh, I really want to make like an 80s slasher. It's going to be like, oh, I really want to make something like Scream or like something like from the 90s. Like that's what they're looking for now, which is like alarming. But it's also like, that's just how movies go, man, that they got to follow the trend.
100%. 100%. Well, thank you so much for talking with me tonight. Can you, for anyone listening, anyone watching this, where can they find you and keep up with what you're doing?
Well, don't come to my house, but I am still in Queens. If you see me in the streets, holler at me, buy me a shot. If not, you can follow me at Felony Baloney. Felony like the crime and then baloney like the ham. You put that wherever. I'm on Instagram. I also have a Facebook, and the little production house that I have, not house, but like some sort of thing that I put all my shit on YouTube is Starting Off Scared, all one word. And what else? Where can you find me? I'm a Troma. Come to the office anytime. Anyone is welcome. Please, you gotta come to the office.
I have never been to the Troma office.
Come to the Troma office. You get a free DVD, and I'll give you a tour. And you get to hang out with Lloyd, and then you get sucked into a skit or something. But come find me at Troma Entertainment, at the Troma team. If you want to follow all the updates for Power Positive Murder, follow Troma POP, Power Positive Murder. And anything Troma related, you'll see me in mostly all the videos. If not, I'm editing them. So yeah, find me, beat me if you want to reach me.
There you go. Kim Possible. And make sure, if you can, head out to New York in September, right?
Yes, the last weekend of September.
Last weekend of September. All right. And just to recap, make sure you have a good sound person. Eat before you drink. Like, make sure you get a bass down. And number 3 was...
know your audience.
Know your audience. Great advice. Thank you so much again, Sabrina. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Neil. Thank you so much. Congrats on everything, and also congrats on the podcast. I cannot wait to see all the other great people you bring on.
Thank you so much. All right.
And thank you for taking the time to tune in. As I mentioned, make sure to go check out Sabrina's films in the episode description, and make sure to add TromaDance to your calendar in September. For filmmakers, we have added an Our Favorite Film Festivals section to our website, where you can find and save all these festivals on Film Freeway. That's www.hereifilms.com. You can find that link in the show notes as well. Thank you to those who have followed and given such kind reviews on our first episode. If you haven't yet, please consider leaving a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It's the best way to grow this platform and expand the reach of these filmmakers. You can find us on Instagram at Midnight Horror Picture Show, and please subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to us on. Our theme music is by Nick Ferrari. You can find him at Nick_Ferrari on Instagram. New episodes will release every other Wednesday. And until then, stay spooky and keep supporting indie horror.